Members, a judgment of acquittal or dismissal on all articles of impeachment satisfies Texas Constitution Article 15, Section 5.
The impeachment trial of Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton is over. Paxton has been officially reinstated as the state's highest elected attorney. Now, this comes after a jury of Texas senators dismissed all articles of impeachment against him, allowing Paxton to return to office immediately. Texas senators debated from around noon Friday into the evening hours before returning to the Capitol for more deliberations on Saturday morning, with voting starting at around 11 a.m. So 21 yeas were needed in order to convict Paxton, but the jury was never close to reaching that mark. The highest amount of yeas of any article for a vote was just 14. That means 7 more state senators would have needed to flip their votes. It's important to note that there were 4 articles that were not voted on today, or yesterday rather. Articles 11 through 14 were all formally dismissed by the Senate at the end of the proceedings. The votes were not completely along party lines. A few Republicans voted yay on certain articles, but as we mentioned, there needed to be a total of 21 yeas to reach a conviction. In closing remarks, Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick put the Texas House on blast over how the trial played out.
If only the House members who voted for impeachment would have followed that instruction in the House, we may not have been here. In the House, the vote to send the articles of impeachment against the Attorney General to the Senate happened in only a few days, with virtually no time for 150 members to even study the articles. The Speaker and his team rammed through the first impeachment of a statewide official in Texas in over 100 years, while paying no attention to the precedent that the House set in every other impeachment before.
Texas Speaker of the House Dade Phelan released a statement following the end of the impeachment trial, saying, quote, "I find it deeply concerning that after weeks of claiming he would preside over this trial in an impartial and honest manner." Lieutenant Governor Patrick would conclude by confessing his bias and placing his contempt for the People's House on full display. To be clear, Patrick attacked the House for standing up against corruption, end quote. KVUE's Kelsey Sanchez tells us more about what happens next now that the impeachment trial is over.
Attorney General Warren Kenneth Paxton Jr. is hereby, at this moment, reinstated to office.
After nearly 2 weeks of witness testimony and deliberation in the Senate, Attorney General Ken Paxton will remain the state's top lawyer.
We should not have had to prove our innocence, but that's what we did. And we believe that the court reached the right verdict.
The trial, which divided the Republican Party and put Paxton's integrity in question, centered on allegations of abuse of power and bribery, mostly involving Nate Paul, an Austin real estate developer who was Paxton's donor and friend. In the end, the majority of senators were not convinced.
And while I disagree with the decision of a minority of senators to excuse Mr. Paxton's abuses of office, I know that we presented a factual, credible case that honored the standard to which all elected officials should be held.
It should have never happened, and hopefully we'll get the changes made this next session so that this never happens again.
Speaker of the House Dade Phelan called out Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick, stating his, quote, bias was put on full display after being silent throughout the trial. However, noting this is not the end of the line for Paxton, saying, quote, Ken Paxton is the subject of multiple other lawsuits, indictments, and investigations. If new facts continue to come out, those who allowed him to keep his office will have much to answer for, end quote. However, the lieutenant governor blasted the House for wasting money on a case he feels shouldn't have been filed in the first place.
In the House, the vote to send the articles of impeachment against the Attorney General to the Senate happened in only a few days, with virtually no time for 150 members to even study the articles.
Regardless of the outcome, the House impeachment managers are standing their ground that the evidence presented was factual and done to their best ability.
And I just hope that the people of Texas will know that the people that they elected from the Texas House took our job seriously. We followed the rules, we followed the ethics, and the rules that were put in place for us to do it, we followed it.
Paxton still faces a state case regarding 2 counts of securities fraud. Paxton's attorney, Dan Cogdell, says he expects this trial to happen sometime next year.